Hello everyone, it is me, Mr. Davies, with another instalment of an unseen poetry English lesson. As you can see from our title today, we are going to be studying an unseen poem called Spring in Wartime. Okay, this is the first lesson in a series of 2 unseen poems that focus on war. In the blue box, you have got all the equipment that you will need for today's lesson. A black pen, a green pen, paper, ruler, highlighter, and of course that university mindset. We're really starting to build a rhythm now with that high level academic vocabulary, which is of course going to be present again in today's lesson. I would like you to hit the pause button, make sure that your page looks like mine does there with the title neatly underlined, and then hit play when you are ready for that 5 a day. Okay then, ladies and gents, are we ready to go? Pens at the ready, here come those 5 a day. Numbers 1 to 5 in your margin then. There is some recall there based on previous lessons, and there's a little Macbeth one in number 5 there as well. Okay, so give yourself about 4 or 5 minutes to complete that 5 a day by hitting the pause button, and then hit play when you have completed it. Alright then, ladies and gents, how do we get on? Are we ready to tick and track? Get those green pens ready for me. So you need to tick the ones you got correct, you need to track the ones that you missed, and your answers to your 5 a day are being revealed in 3, 2, and there we go. Alright, so go through and tick and track for me, and then I'll explain a little bit more about some of the more important questions there in reference to today's lesson. Hit the pause button now. Okay, ladies and gents, so numbers 2, 3 and 4 are going to be vital for today's lesson. We must remember about connotations. So connotations are a word that invokes for a person in addition to its literal or primary meaning. Okay, so what do you think of when you see or read a particular word? Malevolent may come in useful today, so something that's malevolent, causes or wants to cause harm or evil. And finally, if something is futile, it is incapable of producing any useful result. All of those could be useful during today's lesson, and hopefully you got the extension task as well. The quotation that best matches the knowledge organiser point from question 5 is Glamis hath murdered sleep, and therefore Cawdor shall sleep no more, Macbeth shall sleep no more. So let's have a look at today's learning objectives. We are going to, as always, recall some A Christmas Carol Macbeth quotations and knowledge organiser points, and then we are going to move on and analyse today's unseen poem, Spring in Wartime. Okay then, ladies and gents, so you know how this retrieval practice works by now. Make your page look like mine does, please. Retrieval practice quotations as your subtitle, which is underlined. Numbers 1 to 5 in the margin. 5 points up for grabs in this first round. Hit the pause button, get your page set up like that. Hit play when you're ready to start. Here's that retrieval practice for quotations then. You are just looking to write down the missing word from the quotation. Numbers 1, 2 and 3 are A Christmas Carol. Numbers 4 and 5 are from Macbeth. Give yourself about 2 minutes to complete that retrieval practice. Hit the pause button and get cracking. Okay, fantastic job, ladies and gents. Those green pens at the ready as always. Are you ready to tick and track? Revealing those answers in 3, 2 and 1. There you go. Hit the pause button for me. Tick the ones you got correct and track the ones you missed. Hit play when you're ready to move on. Okay, I particularly like the quotation from in number 5. Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood from my hand? The hyperbole being used there, the exaggeration of kind of using the ocean, even the whole of the ocean would not wash away the blood from Macbeth's hands. Okay, how did you get on? 5 out of 5? Well done if you did. Let's move on then to round number 2. All right then, so round number 2 is knowledge organizer points. Okay, so there are 3 questions, but there are still 5 points up for grabs. So you need numbers 1 to 3 in your margin, along with the subtitle Retrieval Practice Knowledge Organizer points. Hit the pause button, get that sorted for me, hit play when you're ready to move on. Okay then, ladies and gents, here is that knowledge organizer recall then. So 2 words missing from the first 2, 1 word missing from the final knowledge organizer point. Numbers 1 and 2 are A Christmas Carol, number 3 is Macbeth. Hit the pause button. You are only looking to write down the words that are missing from the knowledge organizer point. Give yourself about 2 minutes to complete that and then hit play when you're ready to move on. Okay then, ladies and gents, those green pens need to be at the ready. Are you ready to tick and track? Going to reveal those answers in 3, 2 and 1. Alright, so hit the pause button and tick the ones you got correct and track the ones that you missed, please, ladies and gents. Hit play when you have completed that. Okay, a word that's really important for us is this word in the first knowledge organizer point, ephemeral. Okay, so ephemeral means lasting for a short amount of time. Now, why I think that that's a really important word is because you can use that in both A Christmas Carol and Macbeth. So the Ghost of Christmas Past is ephemeral because his lifespan is a short period of time. And also the dagger is ephemeral when it appears as a hallucination for Macbeth, okay, which shows that Macbeth's kind of masculine authority is artificial and not real, because the dagger appears and disappears continuously throughout that soliloquy scene. So I think ephemeral is a great word to have in our vocabulary bank. Let's see what you guys got out of 10. Okay then, so scores on the doors. What did you guys get out of 10? Any 10 out of 10s out there? I bet there were. Alright, so well done if you did. 8, 9, 10 are all fantastic scores as well. Great job, ladies and gents. Let's just have a quick reminder of today's learning objectives. Okay then, ladies and gents. So we have completed the first learning objective to recall A Christmas Carol and Macbeth quotations and knowledge organizer points. And now we are going to move on to analyse that unseen poem Spring in Wartime. Except before we do that, I'm going to do a quick show call for a phenomenal piece of work that was completed last week in one of our unseen poetry sessions, just to show you guys the standard of the work that some students out there are producing. Alright, so first of all, thank you to Bruno Mendes in Year 11 for providing this fantastic answer. Let's have a quick look at how Bruno responded to our lesson on Storm in the Black Forest. Okay, so Bruno used the Yr10 point and the quotation that we highlighted as being really useful in that lesson. So let's have a look at how he explains that afterwards. Lawrence uses his poem about the ineffable power of nature as a tool to reveal how human attempts to subjugate the natural world are ultimately hubristic and futile. This is perhaps best demonstrated when he writes, "The heavens cackle with uncouth sounds." Here, the juxtaposition of heavens cackle uncouth sounds demonstrates that perhaps God himself would cackle at the thought of humans subjugating nature, further demonstrating the futility of attempting to do so. Furthermore, the personification implies that nature itself is sentient and mocks human attempts to chain it to their will. What a fantastic answer. Thank you again, Bruno. So in red there, I've put some of the kind of key vocabulary that we've been working really hard on during these recorded lessons that Bruno's managed to include in his answer. Okay, juxtaposition, subjugating, futility, personification. But then Bruno just takes it to that next level, all right, and he uses this this fantastic word that he's got at his disposal because he's got a great vocabulary, sentient. Okay, sentient means to be able to perceive or feel things. So he's saying that the personification makes nature appear sentient, okay, so that nature can actually feel that it is mocking human attempts to subjugate nature. Okay, so it adds to that description of the personification that's happening in the poem. Great job, Bruno. Extra class charts points for you. I'm sure there are loads more examples of top quality answers out there. Email them to me, guys. You could be next week's show call. Okay, so having seen the top level vocabulary that Bruno used in his answer, and we know that we've been working really hard on that vocabulary as well. There's one word that I want to add to our vocabulary list today. A lot of you will probably already know this, but I just really wanted to highlight it before we started today's analysis of that unseen poem. So the word cyclical is something that occurs in cycles. That means it's recurrent. It keeps going over and over and over. Okay, so what could be described as cyclical? Well, there are many things that could be described as cyclical. I've just got two examples for you. So time can be described as cyclical. All right, so there are 24 hours in every day, and that is the same every single day. There are 12 months in every year, and that is the same every single year. 365 days in, etc., etc. You guys get the picture. All right, so time can be described as cyclical. However, even more important for today's lesson is that nature can be described as cyclical. Yeah, our first question on our 5 a day today was to recall those 4 seasons. So spring, summer, autumn, winter, they come in cycles around the same point every year. So nature can be described as cyclical. That's going to be a vital word for today's lesson. Okay, so I've added that word cyclical to this list of vocabulary that we've been pre-teaching before every recorded lesson. So let's just have a quick reminder of that list. Incapable of producing any useful result or pointless, futile. Causes or wants to cause harm or evil, malevolent. To bring under control by conquest, subjugate. Too great or extreme to be described in words, ineffable. Of very great excellence or beauty, sublime. Something that occurs in cycles or is recurrent, cyclical. A feeling that is very great or intense, profound. All right, I'm going to get you guys just to pause the video, and I would like you just to read those through one more time, please, because there's going to be a quick retrieval practice in a moment. Read those through one more time, hit play when you're ready to move on. All right then, ladies and gents, read those through one more time. Fantastic. Let's jumble them up and let's take the definitions, the words out of the definitions. Here we go. All right, so you are going to need numbers 1 to 7 in your margin. You don't need to write out the sentences. If you just think that number 1, for example, is cyclical, then you put cyclical next to number 1. All right, so I would give yourself about 3 minutes 30 seconds to complete that activity. All right, and you can hit the pause button now while you complete that, and then hit play when you are ready to move on. Good luck, guys. Okay, how are we getting on with developing this vocabulary? Let's get those green pens at the ready because we are going to tick and track now. All right, so tick the ones you got correct, track the ones that you missed, revealing those answers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, ladies and gents, so there are your answers. I'm going to let you guys hit pause, tick the ones you got correct, track the ones you missed, hit play when you're ready to move on. Okay guys, hopefully you got a really great score there and you feel as though your vocabulary is developing and we can use some of those words in today's lesson. Just a quick reminder of our assessment objectives then when we analyse an unseen poetry question, or when we answer an unseen poetry question. So we must always first of all try and hit assessment objective 1. To get marks for assessment objective 1, we need to understand what we think the message the poet is trying to tell us is. Okay. Once we've understood what the message is, we then need to make sure we get marks for AO2, which is how that poet is showing us that message. All right. What techniques are being used to deliver that message. And then we've got, of course, our Unseen Poetry 5 steps to success. We know that step 1 is to read the question and highlight the keywords before we've even read the poem. Okay, so let's just jump straight into that and complete that activity now. Alright, so we've got to read the question and highlight the key words. For this step, you must identify the key theme or idea in the question you will need to consider in your answer. So today's question is, in Spring in Wartime, how does the poet present the effects of war? What are the key words we must highlight? Okay, so I would like you to hit the pause button now. I would like you to write out that question, and then I would like you to highlight the key words from the question. Okay, that activity should probably take you less than 1 minute, guys. Okay, so get cracking on that and then let's move on. Okay, I reckon you guys are pretty confident at this by now. Alright, so if the key words that you highlighted were effects of war, that is correct. Well done. Now, we've got to own and track that. Remind ourselves, why is the correct answer own and track? Why is the correct answer effects of war? The correct answer is effects of, they are the key words, because that is what the question is asking us to write about. If we don't write about the effects of war, we do not get any marks. So, could you please own and track what I've written in the pink box there, please? Effects of war are the key words because that is what the question is asking us to write about. Hit the pause button, do that now, hit play when you're ready to move on. Okay guys, it's easy with these steps to success, isn't it? Yeah, because we now know we've done step number 1, complete, ticked it off. Now we're going to read the poem at least twice. Okay, so let's have a look at today's poem then. Alright, so Spring in Wartime. Now the sprinkled blackthorn snow lies along the lovers' lane, where last year we used to go, where we shall not go again. In the hedge the buds are new, by our woods the violets peer, just like last year's violets too, but they have no scent this year. Every bird has heart to sing of its nest warmed by its breast. We had heart to sing last spring, but we never built our nest. Presently roses blown will make all the garden gay. Not yet have the daisies grown on your clay. Okay, so that is Spring in Wartime by Edith Nesbit. So we've read that poem once. I would now like you to hit the pause button and at least reread that poem one more time. That's the minimum, guys. If you are a student that thinks I need to read it 3-4 times before I'm ready to move on, then do that, please. Okay, so hit the pause button, reread that poem as many times as you need to before hitting play again. Okay then, ladies and gents, hopefully you've given yourself enough time to reread that poem as many times as you need to. If you haven't, please hit pause and do that now. That's a vital part of the lesson. Only one word in there that I thought you guys might not quite know the meaning of, and that is this word blackthorn. So a blackthorn is a type of hedge. So in that first line, when they're talking about the sprinkled blackthorn snow, they're talking about the snow that's landed on the top of a blackthorn hedge. Alright, so that is step 2 complete, isn't it? We have read the poem at least twice. Now we've got to move on to annotating for Yr10 and writing a sentence that sums up that also ever key message of the poem. Okay then, ladies and gents, so this is where I hand over to you for that independent activity, that stop and jot. Alright, so Nesbit uses her poem about the, insert adjective, effects of war as a tool to demonstrate. Now, you've got the key vocabulary that we've recalled this lesson. Alright, so when it comes to that insert adjective, really think about which one of those words is going to be the most appropriate. Okay, then if you need to, have another read of the poem. What is the key message? What is Nesbit telling us about war? Okay, so this is going to be an activity that's probably going to last somewhere between 3.5 and 5 minutes. All right, for you to just to really get that high level academic A01 sentence that sums up the message of the poem. Okay, so work hard on trying to use the best vocabulary that you can. Hit the pause button, all right, and give yourself about 3.5 to 5 minutes to complete that. Then hit play when you're ready to move on. Okay then, ladies and gents, I'm sure you guys have got some phenomenal answers here, and I bet some of them are really close to what I believe a top level answer is. All right, so as always, I'm going to go through 3 answers that I think you guys will have come up with, and we're going to discuss why they are either the best answer or a good answer but not quite there. Okay, so let's have a look at number 1 first of all. This is an answer I think you guys may have come up with. Nesbit uses her poem about the effects of war as a tool to demonstrate the cyclical and inevitable destruction war brings. That's number 1. Number 2. Nesbit uses her profound poem about the malevolent effects of war as a tool to demonstrate the inevitable physical and psychological impact war has on soldiers and their loved ones. That's number 2. And finally, number 3. Nesbit uses the cyclical patterns of nature as a tool to demonstrate the inevitable, malevolent effects of war, as well as the futile physical and psychological trauma caused by combat for soldiers and their loved ones. Okay, so we have got 3 sentences that sum up the message of the poem. Sentence 1, sentence 2 and sentence 3. Let's have a look at them all together here. All right, I'm going to ask you guys to pause the video at this point, and I'm going to ask you to reread all 3 of those sentences. Then I would like you to hit play again, having decided which sentence you think is the best sentence that sums up the message of the poem, and we'll do a quick show call. Okay, so hit the pause button now, reread all 3 of those sentences, decide which one of those you think best sums up the message of the poem, and then hit play. Okay then, ladies and gents, have you given yourself enough time to decide which of those sentences best sums up the message of the poem? Hopefully you have. So let's get ready for that show me. And 1, 2, show me. If you are currently holding up your fingers and they say number 3, then that is the correct answer. Well done, ladies and gents. However, I will say that number 1 and number 2 are great efforts as well. I wouldn't actually call them wrong answers, but I would call number 3 the best answer. And we at Marine Academy always want to go for the best answer. So let's explore why number 3 is the best answer. Okay, so I don't think number 1 is the best answer. Nesbit uses her poem about the effects of war as a tool to demonstrate the cyclical and inevitable destruction war brings. Now, the reason I think that is, where's the adjective to describe the effects of war? Nesbit uses her poem about the something effects of war. So that sentence can be improved by adding that adjective in there, okay? And I did encourage you all to do that in the sentence stem for the stop and jot. So hopefully you guys did not fall into that trap. So that's why I don't think number 1 is the best answer. I don't think number 2 is the best answer either. Nesbit uses her profound poem about the malevolent effects of war as a tool to demonstrate the inevitable physical and psychological impact war has on soldiers and their loved ones. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that is a good sentence and I think it does sum up the message of the poem, but I do think this student has missed something. I don't think number 2 is the best answer because this student has not made the link between war and nature, and that is a vital part of this this poem. Yes, the poem is about war, but actually Nesbit uses nature as a vehicle to transport her message about war, doesn't she? That's why I think number 3 is the best answer. Nesbit uses the cyclical patterns of nature as a tool to demonstrate the inevitable, malevolent effects of war, as well as the futile physical and psychological trauma caused by combat for soldiers and their loved ones. For me, that is a grade 9 sentence that sums up the message of the poem. So let's just break that sentence down in a bit more detail now, making sure that we understand all of the high-level vocabulary in that response. Okay, just a quick reminder of some of the key words in this A01 point then. So cyclical, we know that, we already taught that. Something that occurs in cycles. Something that's inevitable, it's certain it will happen, okay? So the effects of war being malevolent are inevitable because war only brings death. That's what this point is saying. Malevolent causes or wants to cause harm or evil. And finally, trauma, we know this word from Macbeth, don't we? A deeply distressing or disturbing experience. Okay, which brings us with this fantastic A01 point that sums up the key message of the poem. Okay then, ladies and gents, so where are we on our steps to success? We have annotated for A01, we've written a sentence that sums up the message of the poem, and now we've got to move ahead and dive into some of the quotations and think hard, considering connotations of particular words and how that message is now being delivered. Just a quick reminder about connotations. They are an idea or a feeling which a word invokes for a person in addition to its literal meaning. So in the previous week we looked at the idea of the colour red, and what are the connotations of red? Well, we said things like blood, romance, love, death, okay? They are all connotations of the colour red. So that's a quick reminder about connotations. All right, so I have put our A01 point in the pink box at the top there, just to remind us of that. Okay, and then we've got the poem on the left-hand side of the screen in the blue box. Now, your task is going to be as follows. Write down 2 quotations that you think would best match our A01 point. Particularly think about words which have the best connotations, okay? So not only does it have to match our A01 point, but those words have to have connotations that we can unpick in our analysis. I reckon this activity could take you anywhere up to perhaps 4.5 minutes, because what you're going to need to do is reread the poem and finally select 2 quotations for me, okay? Once you've selected those quotations, I would like you to write the ones down in your book. All right then, ladies and gents, have you selected those quotations? Have you written them down in your book? I'm sure that you have. Now, I have chosen 2 quotations that I think would give us the best leverage, particularly in relation to our A01 point and thinking about connotations. So, one of the quotations that I think really stood out to me was as follows. We had heart to sing last spring, but we never built our nest. So if you wrote that quotation down, well done. That's a fantastic quotation to have chosen. I also think another quotation that really stood out to me is this final quotation. Not yet have the daisies grown on your clay. All right, so I think they are 2 really great quotations that were going to match our A01 point and give us connotations to talk about. Now, if you chose different quotations, that doesn't mean to say that they're wrong, but I just think these 2 quotations in particular give us loads to talk about. So let's explore that in a bit more detail now. Okay then, so our A01 point is still in the pink box at the top, and then we've got our quotation in the blue box on the left hand side. We had heart to sing last spring, but we never built our nest. Okay, now your task is going to be as follows. Firstly, I would like you to write out that quotation. Secondly, I would like you to underline the two words that you think have the best connotations that match this part of the A01 point. Nesbitt uses the cyclical patterns of nature as a tool to demonstrate the inevitable malevolent effects of war. Now, do you think that the best word with the best connotations there is we, or heart, or spring, or nest? Once you've written the quotation out, underline the two words that you think would give us the best connotations. Okay then, ladies and gents. So, which words did you underline? Which of those four words do you think have the best connotations that are going to match our A01 point? Well, if you underlined the words spring and nest, well done. I agree with you. I think they are the best words and that have the best connotations that match our A01 point. But again, as always, let's explore a little bit about why they are the best words. So this, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and own and track this information. So that word spring on the end of the first line there has connotations of rebirth and new beginnings, which cannot happen for this couple. Yeah, this couple, the female, we take it, speaker who is speaking here, they have no new beginning because the soldier has passed away and been killed. Okay, so that's the connotations of the word spring there. Nest. Now, what does that word nest have connotations of? It has connotations of building a home and starting a family. An experience this couple have been denied because of the malevolent effects of war. They will not be able to start their own family and get their own home because the soldier that she was in love with was killed in battle. Okay, so I would like to hit pause now, and I would like you to annotate around that quotation those connotations of the word spring and nest, please. Hit pause, do that now, hit play when you're ready to move on. Okay, ladies and gents, are we ready to move on? Fantastic. Let's have a look at the next quotation that I decided was going to have excellent connotations for us then. Not yet have the daisies grown on your clay. So, which words have the best connotations that link to our point? And the second part of our point here, the futile physical and psychological trauma caused by combat for soldiers and their loved ones. All right, so which words here have the best connotations? Is it the word not? Is it the word daisies? Is it the word grown? Or is it the word clay? So what I would like you to do, ladies and gents, is write out the quotation, and then I would like you to underline the two words that you think have the best connotations that we could talk about to match that A01 point. Hit the pause button and do that now. Okay then, ladies and gents, which two words did you underline? Well, if you underlined the words daisies and clay, congratulations, well done. They are the words that I think also have the best connotations to match this A01 point. But let's explore why. All right, so in a moment, I'm going to get you to own and track this, guys. All right, so daisies. The white of the daisies has connotations of innocence and purity, something this soldier has been robbed of due to his death. And then finally, that word clay. The soil that has been used to bury the soldier in his grave would have been clay. So daisies have not grown there yet because the death is recent, showing how the psychological pain for the loved one he has left behind is both agonising and traumatic. Another thing that's worth noting here is that sentence on your clay ends very abruptly. It's shorter than the rest of the sentences in the poem. So that kind of demonstrates how his life was ended in a really abrupt way as well. All right, hit the pause button, own and track those annotations on the quotation there for me, please. Hit play when you're ready to move on. Okay then, ladies and gents, we are down to our 5th step on the poetry steps to success, and that is to write in literature paragraphs. Now, you have got access to all that great vocabulary, that great knowledge point. So let's have a look at how this is going to work. I've got the first part of the sentence for you. Nesbitt uses the cyclical patterns of nature as a tool to demonstrate the inevitable malevolent effects of war, as well as the futile physical and psychological trauma caused by combat for soldiers and their loved ones. This is perhaps best demonstrated when she writes. Now, you've got your notes from 2 quotations there, so ideally we're looking to create 2 solid paragraphs that analyse the key message and how that message is delivered. However, I'm not just going to let you do that on your own. I've got sentence stems in the green box here to help you. Alright? However, this is further demonstrated when, the noun, the connotations of, etc. Okay, so use those sentence stems to help you create 2 paragraphs. One that analyses the first quotation we looked at, and another that analyses the second quotation we looked at. I think that's probably going to take somewhere between sort of 12 and 15 minutes. All right, this is the part of the lesson where everything really comes together, and you try and use that high level vocabulary as best you can. So, hit the pause button now, give yourself a good 12 to 15 minutes to complete that activity, then hit play when you are ready to move on. Okay, ladies and gents, how did you get on? I bet there are some phenomenal answers out there. I would just like you to get your green pens at the ready. I'm going to read through a model answer. Now, if there are any parts in the model answer that are missing, I would like you to pause the video and add those parts of the model answer to yours so that you've got a top level response as part of today's lesson. Okay, let's have a look at a fantastic answer then. Nesbitt uses the cyclical patterns of nature as a tool to demonstrate the inevitable malevolent effects of war, as well as the futile physical and psychological trauma caused by combat for soldiers and their loved ones. This is perhaps best demonstrated when she writes, "We had heart to sing last spring, but we never built our nest." The noun spring has connotations of rebirth and new beginnings. However, for this couple, their new beginnings have been painfully destroyed by war. This is further demonstrated through the phrase, "never built our nest." Nest having connotations of building a home and starting a family, which the couple have been denied of because of the malevolent effects of combat. The physical and psychological impact of war is perhaps best demonstrated in the poem's final lines. "Not yet have the daisies grown on your clay." The noun daisies has connotations of innocence and purity through their white colour. However, war has stripped this soldier of his innocence, purity and youth, demonstrating the devastating physical impact of war. Furthermore, the poem's haunting final message is not only about the physical effects of war, but the psychological effects on those left behind. The noun clay represents the soil that has been used to bury the soldier. The fact that daisies have not grown on the clay yet demonstrates the new and agonising psychological trauma of the loved one he has left behind. His death is new and hard to come to terms with. Perhaps Nesbitt presents the effects of war in this way to demonstrate to the reader that the natural cyclical pattern of life and death is always disrupted by the physical and psychological trauma caused by war on both soldiers and their loved ones. The effects of war are presented as both deadly and futile. Now, if you didn't pause during that reading, feel free to rewind and just pause wherever you need to green pen in some of that top level response where it was missing from your original answer. Okay, ladies and gents, that is the end of today's lesson. Fantastic job. Well done all round. What now? Well, make sure you complete the exit ticket for today's lesson and feel free to email me. My email address is on the page there if you've got any questions about today's lesson or you've just got some fantastic work that you want to show me. Okay, fantastic work, ladies and gents. See you next time.